This video is sponsored by historiansart.com. Please visit their site and take a look at their beautiful artistic renderings of historical photos. Thank you to historiansart.com for sponsoring this episode. For decades, the Stauffer Chemical Plant in Tarpon Springs stood as the epitome of industrial might. From 1947 to 1981, it stood along the Anclote River, processing phosphate ore into elemental phosphorus, a chemical essential for everything from fertilizers to pesticides. Jobs were plenty, and the company operated as a quiet but powerful presence in the community. Yet beneath the hum of production, something far more dangerous was happening, a slow poisoning that would affect generations. By the time the plant shuttered its doors in 1981, it had left behind a legacy of environmental destruction. The land it sat on, 130 acres, was soaked in a toxic sludge of heavy metals like arsenic, lead, and radioactive radium. During its decades of operation, Stauffer Chemical was frequently in violation of environmental laws, yet the company largely escaped any meaningful consequences. Stauffer regularly emitted toxic gases, including phosphorus pentoxide, sulfur dioxide, and fluoride, into the air. These gases formed harmful particles that rained down on the nearby community, contributing to respiratory illnesses. In the 1970s, the plant was cited for violating the Clean Air Act, but the fines were minimal, and the company happily paid rather than addressing the core issues. The plant released large quantities of phosphorus-laden wastewater directly into the Anclote River. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection found significant levels of heavy metals, including arsenic, mercury, and radium-226, in the river's sediments. The EPA later confirmed that groundwater under the site was heavily contaminated with these toxic substances. Drinking water wells in the area were at risk, though residents were not fully informed of the dangers. Phosphorus production left behind massive amounts of toxic slag, waste material that contained radioactive radium and thorium, as well as heavy metals like arsenic. Stauffer kept this slag in unlined pits that were dug on site. The slag not only polluted the soil, but it also found its way into the groundwater and the nearby Anclote River. This wasn't just industrial waste. It was a cocktail of carcinogens seeping into the very groundwater that Tarpon Springs residents relied on. For years, the plant operated with little regard for the health of the workers or the surrounding community. Tarpon Springs residents living near the site reported high incidences of cancer, respiratory problems, and other serious health issues. A 1998 Tampa Bay Times article noted that cancer rates in the area were nearly double the state average. Stauffer Chemical Plant ceased operations in Tarpon Springs in 1981. However, the site would sit untouched until 1994, when the federal government finally took the steps of naming it a EPA Superfund site. The cleanup process began, but it was anything but straightforward. Rhône Poulenc, the French company that had acquired Stauffer Chemical, agreed to contribute to the cleanup efforts, but the majority of the cost has been footed by the American taxpayer. The EPA's solution to the contamination has been controversial from the start. Rather than fully removing the radioactive slag and contaminated soil, the EPA opted for a cheaper solution, known as capping. This involves covering the contaminated ground with a layer of clay and topsoil, essentially sealing the problem, leaving future generations to deal with the toxic legacy. Although the EPA declared the site clean by their standards, many local residents and environmental groups continue to express serious concerns. Many environmentalists believe the capped contamination remains an active threat. With Florida's frequent storms and flooding, many worry that the toxins could re-enter the environment, especially the groundwater and Anclote River. Those with business interests are once again interested in exploiting the 130-acre waterfront property. While residential construction is prohibited on this land, there have been attempts at redeveloping this Superfund site for commercial use. Only time will tell. Hopefully, EPA Superfund sites like the old Stauffer Chemical Plant offer a lesson to future generations. For the people of Tarpon Springs, the Stauffer Chemical Plant serves as a grim reminder of what happens when corporations are allowed to operate with impunity. and regulators fail to protect the environment and public. We want to thank you for watching this episode. Please like, subscribe, and share, and visit our sponsor historiansart.com.